Release the Kraken.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to a special joint Kraken. I think I speak for Camden as well as myself when I say that we are truly appreciative of and humbled by the support and by the amount of people, really flocking to the show. And we could not be more grateful. We very kindly ask those that are reaching out via email and things like that to just give us a little bit of time. We're a little bit flustered and overwhelmed, but these are, I guess you could say, good problems to have. So we really, really do appreciate it. With that being said, let's jump right into it. We got stories from all over the world that we're going to be covering today. So first off, as it pertains to the German elections, according to the BBC, the center left claim a narrow win over Angela Merkel's party. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, what we're going to see if we read the subtitle quickly is Germany's center left Social Democrats, SPD, have claimed victory in the federal election, telling the party of outgoing Chancellor Angela Merkel it should no longer be in power, end quote. Okay, it's very difficult. I'm going to be truthful with you folks. For me to not let my opinion get in the way with respects to this, I do not know the inner workings of Germany and the geopolitics of it relative to the confines of the country itself. But I think from a humble perspective, she's been there far too long. I do believe that she is again, not saying that there's any substantive veracity behind this, but I would dare to argue she is a tool of what you would call, I guess, arguably the NATO deep state, if you will. She goes along very well with the militarization of a lot of things. She voices her opinion, but again, it's what they say and what they do is it's tit for tat, right? So with that being said, from an unbiased perspective, I mean, look, if assuming this is a fair and free election, the people want to change, let it be. So, Camden, you have anything to say?
She's been in power. Her and Jinping from China are the only people that have been in like the driver's seat in any country as long as they have been.
Oh, Xi Jinping.
Yeah, I never say his name right. I really don't.
No worries.
It's an interesting time for her to like this change to happen in Germany, I think, is more than anything the key point here. It's like same as Canada's snap election. They barely maintained power, but yeah. United States Congress, big week, shut down government maybe. It's strange how fast they're trying to pass this spending bill, raise the debt ceiling. I mean, it's all theoretical anyways. A consequential week for President Joe Biden's agenda as Democratic leaders trim back his $3.5 trillion tax and spending package. I mean, I don't know why they're trying to pass it so fast and right now. I mean, that's the shady part.
The thing, right, if I could just add before we get to the next story, is that when you take a look at how quickly they move in this regard relative to how slow they moved with regards to getting let's just say payments out to the American people during, the height of the COVID pandemic. I say that with air quotes, but, I mean, I got to be honest with you folks. When you look at this, look at how quickly they move. Look at how eventful they make it to the press. They dictate this week as being a big week to the press. Meanwhile, when it comes to a measly, $600, $2,000 check for the American people, again, I'm not trying to take a socialist perspective, but if we're trying to play it down the middle, let's call a spade, right?
Yeah, no, it's like where their priorities.
Yeah. Right. And this tells me this is a sign of the military industrial complex, the military media complex, and a few other, I guess you could say rogue or shadow apparatuses pushing this forward, because my God, when it comes to actually helping people, nothing gets done. But no problem. We got to move now. Everyone's in Congress. Let's go. So, the next thing is that according to the BBC, China has freed Canadians Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig after the Huawei boss was released. Okay. Right down the middle from an unbiased perspective, or at least attempting to have that perspective, this was purely an intelligence negotiation. Again, hard to say if, Secretary of State or the State Department, CIA, DIA, right? It doesn't even matter at that point. This was in my humble opinion, a proxy negotiation between the US and the CCP. Again, not the Chinese people, but the CCP. And Canada was the proxy country. Again, I'm Canadian, we held the vice president of Huawei, if I'm not mistaken, under house arrest for a handful of many months.
3 years, I'm pretty
Three
sure it
years,
said.
yeah. I was gonna
3 years
say
under house arrest.
right, exactly. And so this is very simple, at least from my perspective. It was, listen, we'll let her go. You give us some of our spies and you let the Canadians go. And, maybe the West had given the CCP something that's not being broadcasted publicly. But again, this is a tit for tat. This is a chess game. It's not for us to say if this was a right or wrong move. And on top of that, we don't even know all the moves. So
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing only front end results. We don't get any at all ever half the story. It's
right.
amazing that they really even reported these events as happening at the same time.
Yep.
This is a weird one. I never understood why it was a thing in the first place. Instagram pauses plans to develop a app for kids. I don't know what. I mean, we see lots of problems with kids being on like the internet. So I get some wrapped up in a nice present justification for keeping them in separate internet spaces, but it's just
So if I could jump in quickly, this
yeah,
to me, I see two sides of the coin here, or a double-edged sword, if you will.
right,
So they suspended developing Instagram for kids under the age of 13. On the surface level, when it comes to privacy, forget about it. There's no privacy regardless, right? Whatever they
right,
promise, we got to put that aside from an unbiased perspective. But when we take a look, for example, at why they stopped it, or why they continue, or why they may continue it, if they continue it, you could argue the good thing is that it's going to be, again, an echo chamber, just a good echo chamber, arguably echoing just child-based content that would be suitable and appropriate for the relative,
right.
right?
It's
Now the other,
they
right.
privacy data mining. Yeah, okay, they're getting ads for your kids that are targeted, but there's not a danger of them seeing some of the inappropriate content that you could find accidentally or being influenced incorrectly. But that
Right.
does kind of put all the kids in one spot.
Yes, exactly. And that's the other side of the sword, or the
Yeah,
coin, if you will. You got people now, again, if we take a look at Project Flickr, for those that are members and even those that have seen some of the previous public episodes, you'll know it people within the DoD, people within NASA, CIA, the Pentagon, it doesn't take much for them to get their fingers in there, metaphorically and no pun intended, to be honest with you, and be able to spy on these children. And it's very unfortunate. But anyways, the next thing is that, according to ABC News, an egg was thrown at French President Macron during a food trade fair. French President Macron was hit on the shoulder by an egg thrown at him by a man during an international food trade fair in the French city of Lyon. Now,
he
end
got
quote.
something else thrown at him a while ago too, didn't he?
Tomatoes, I think, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Yeah. And I saw the video of this one when he had an egg thrown at him. And look, again, when you see the protests by the people in France, you see the retired French military generals and colonels making these petitions saying that, again, it's debatable. It's not for us to say whether it's a racist perspective or not, but there's a strong argument for a more traditionalistic, more culturally based France. Not that people from outside the country can't come in, but we can argue more of a nationalistic perspective, in the sense that everybody's welcome to come to France, but the way we do things here is the way we like to do them, relative to the people that have the French heritage in their blood and things like that. Again, that's not for, I believe, Camden or me to say which way is the right
Well,
way.
I have French in my blood, so I can say it, right? That's allowed. Is that
Oh,
how
there
that
you
all
go.
works? I don't
There
know,
you
right?
go.
I don't know. Identity politics. So most interesting to me is it says Macron, like his predecessors, enjoys spending time meeting the public, called crowd baths. That's a weird, like, how disillusioned, out of touch. Like, these are all people. You're not like taking a bath in
Yeah.
I don't know, strange. Boris Johnson. This is being heavily underreported, and I feel like it would be a bigger deal, but the gas
Yep.
shortage in the UK, hundreds of soldiers could be scrambled to drive fuel tanks. There's pictures and reported incidents of it happening already. Kind of, I mean, that's a totalitarian measure. Rationing in that degree. I'm not A fuel shortage means you have to make sure that it's getting everywhere it needs to. But I mean, maybe they don't have national guards and state guards, I guess, the way America does. So I don't know.
Well, I wanted to, if I could jump in quickly, I want to
Yeah.
make it clear that I don't know the logistics and the intrinsic details of the way that UK operations tend to work. So I understand there are shortages and things like that. And granted, I'm sure some of you who watch and listen to the show are within this industry or maybe around that industry. So you sort of would have a much better grasp than Camden and myself. But at the same time, I mean, it's the UK. It's not. It's not. A third world country. With all due respect, I mean, I take this example similar to the example of when Dr. Fauci said a year and a half ago, people should not be wearing masks in that first 60 minutes interview. And then when he was questioned by it on MSNBC, he said, "Well, I lied." He admitted to lying, saying, "I said it at the time because we were afraid there was going to be a shortage of masks." Okay, and the argument that people made with respect to that rebuttal was you're the richest country in the world. You can't make more masks very quickly if you get, even especially if you get private industry on it, right?
I don't know. I think
I
we're the brokest.
well, see that this is the thing though, right? It depends how it's viewed, right? And
Yeah,
but
no, I'm making
you're
a joke.
exactly right, exactly. And I take that same stance relative to this. Again, I don't know the logistics of what's the way UK operations work, so I don't want to just brush it off as, oh, it's all BS. With that being said, come on, you're telling me that more
I mean,
support
but
can't
they've
be done,
also taken it for themselves. Police have gotten in front of people in lines. I mean, I'm not saying they're not doing
right?
important business, like ambulance crashing through trying to get gas for people. Classism. They get their gas, you do not, kind of thing.
Under the
Um,
justification
go
of we
ahead.
have to protect the people. And again, no disrespect to the actual, the British and the officers in the UK doing a phenomenal job. But again, we have to look at all the angles here, right?
So you had the La Palma landslide videos next. They're right here. I'll
Sure.
just play them.
Yeah,
I
all by all
mean,
means.
this is
For those listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, we apologize. There's no way to get the visual video to you, but the La Palma uh, landslide was quite interesting. There seems to be very anomalistic and non-natural occurrences taking
well,
place
it's
here.
they just had a volcano explosion, and there
Right.
doesn't seem to be any. I mean, the lava didn't create this landslide, as far as I can tell, and am seeing said. So, like, I don't know what's going on in La Palma.
Yeah. That's another thing too, right? When we take a look at that, when you look relative to the other public episodes, especially the members episodes, look at the geography of the place. I don't think we need to say that there's a unique alleged, set of very large bases and motherships on the extraterrestrial perspective within that vicinity. So again, not always trying to imply or direct it back to aliens or humans or secret operations, but we live in very strange times.
Exactly. This next one's like kind of funny. I don't get it. So, China warns U.S. using human rights as pretext for more anti-Russia sanctions as Beijing publicly backs Moscow in new standoff. I have to. I had to read the article to know what they meant by all this, because reading that headline, who is mad at who,
It,
right? Like, what is
Sorry,
that?
if I wanted to say this, what I see here just from this headline, to me personally, this translates to multi-layered chess game, and the public has no freaking clue what's going on here.
Right. China has said it strongly opposes new sanctions against senior Russian officials proposed by Washington. We hear lots about China versus Russia. We hear lots about Russia versus the US, but then also China versus the U. Like, I don't, everyone's being friends and enemies on all different fronts. And like, it's strange.
It's a great form of deception on the surface level, while also playing that multi-layered chess game, right?
Yeah, I know. Absolutely, it is.
The next thing is that according to Al Jazeera, the Taliban has now taken on the ISKP or ISIS-K, its most serious foe in Afghanistan. Afghan group cracks down on ISIS-K members after a series of deadly attacks, but experts say it won't be an easy task. End quote. Okay, here, this is the thing. Again, I have to refer to this perspective, or this at least an attempt at an unbiased, reporting, because it's the nationalistic versus the globalistic perspective. Should we even be getting involved, or even,
I
again, to have an
know.
opinion is one thing, but we know I mean, let's be honest, there's intelligence agencies from all over the world watching Afghanistan right now.
I mean,
So
our intelligence here comes from in a Telegram message. ISK claimed to have killed up to 35 Taliban fighters in
right.
Taliban. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, why do we? I don't think that we need to be involved. I don't know that. And why are we praising the Taliban now? Like, I don't know.
It's just constant make and end it. Like, you go back 16, 17 years ago, there was an article from the Guardian, yeah, quoting, don't quote me specifically, but it was saying, Bush gets tough on the Taliban, denies any negotiations because the Taliban allegedly, was willing to give up bin Laden. That could have been a fake story, like literally just completely made up. With that being said, doesn't matter if it's fake or not. The point is that it got out there. The narrative was pushed. So before they were bad, now it's like, okay, we got to support it. It's a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe. So
Interesting. I don't know. It's a weird article. Biden advisor to meet Saudi Crown Prince on Yemen, U.S. officials. Jake Sullivan will go meet Crown Prince Rihada as
no,
UN
we'll
warns
meet
of
MBS in Riyadh.
in Riyadh. Oh, in Riyadh, the
Yeah.
city. Duh. Warns of indefinite state of war. Um, traveling to Saudi Arabia, okay, to press the kingdom to moves toward a ceasefire with the conflict in Yemen. We typically do, like, geopolitically have at least a negotiable relationship with Saudi Arabia. It's strange that it's taken this long for them to have any discourse, kind of ignoring the Yemen conflict over what I guess Israel and Palestine's conflicts
This
that have been going on. Like,
Right. This is tough in my perspective, because what we have here is we have a very, I say interesting, but I don't even want to use that word because of the influence of, again, I'm not speaking of the people of Saudi Arabia. I'm speaking of the regime over many, many years, right? The overall regime that sort of continued on that sort of control. When we look at the Saudi influence with respects to the regime's influence with respect to 9/11, oil prices, things like that, when I see that picture of Biden getting off the plane and speaking with, the crown prince and all that, I got to be honest with you folks. What I see right there is a very subtle, covert relationship deep down underneath the table, metaphorically. But I also see Saudi Arabia having the West by the balls, pardon my English, in certain regards. So again, it's that multi-layer chess game, if you will.
and it seems like Saudi Arabia becoming more friendly with China in the same way Afghanistan is. That side of the earth is yeah, slowly gripping the West by the balls.
Yep. The
Um,
next. Oh, sorry. Was that?
no, it's you. Go ahead.
Thank you. The next thing is that, according to Reuters, President Erdogan says that Turkey plans to buy more Russian defense systems. Now, if we scroll down a little bit more, it says here, Washington says, oh, sorry, President Tayyip Erdogan said Turkey still intended to buy a second batch of S-400 missile defense systems from Russia, a move that could deepen a rift with NATO ally Washington and trigger new U.S. sanctions, end quote. Okay, there's a few different layers to this in my personal perspective and opinion. And I bring this up right off the bat because, from an unbiased perspective, it's a chess game. It's a chess game, right? With that, between Russia, the US, NATO, the the allies, the Five Eyes, you name it, right? Now, at the same time, I can't believe and help but think how much of a puppet show this is, because if we bring in the other perspective of what we cover with respects to content and topics on the show, these missiles could be disabled within seconds. And I would dare to argue that Russia's got the reverse engineered alien tech to do it. And I'm not saying that they would bring it out, but the point being is that this is all a show. These missiles have been, I guess you could argue, obsolete in many regards since, they were able to master anti-gravity. And I know you might be saying, Dave, okay, the anti-gravity will never come out. Granted, but the fact that they have it, that world nations have this technology, whether some are, more advanced in reverse engineering the alien tech than others or not, the fact that they're doing these missiles and selling these missiles to each other, and they're playing these chess moves, surface level 4D chess, and below that you got like a 8 to 12 layered dimensional
I
chess, if you
know,
will.
and it's
Oh,
like, I mean, they pose a threat to F-35s. The only reason that they would have to use the S-400s on F-35s is F-35s were attacking where the S-400s are. So, like, is the U.S. attacking Turkey? And
yeah.
what's really the worry here? Why is that a problem for the United States? It's,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's a silly chess game. It's like, if you take that out, I don't know.
Yeah.
Dozens dead after deadly attacks in northeast Nigeria. Gangs and terrorist cells and things like that largely getting ignored in Africa too. A state security commissioner says troops came under fire before forcing the assailants to withdraw. Dozens of people were killed in 3 separate attacks in 3 different states. This is a coordinated, like, deadly thing. We don't know where they came from. We don't know that they're unidentified gunmen, just that eventually left, and no one was arrested. No one was apprehended.
I gotta say, from my perspective, I mean, again, as I've always said, folks, it's so unfortunate to see this happen. But I gotta tell you, if you want my opinion, you watch how quickly these random shootings from these militias and rebels stop, if and when the CIA takes a surface level controlling interest in certain parts of Africa. That's my perspective. You watch how quickly those rebels disappear. I'm not implying that they're controlled by the CIA, although, but what I'm saying is that you see how quickly they can get a certain part or vicinity of land under control when they really want to. So I mean, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, they attacked a remote army base.
Yeah, it's exactly. The next thing is that, according to Al Jazeera, Mali approached Russian military company for help, according to the Russian minister Lavrov. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov says Mali's turn towards private Russian companies done, quote, on a legitimate basis, end quote, and insists that Moscow was not involved. Mali has asked Russian private companies to boost security in the conflict-torn country. Moscow confirmed as the Malian leader accused France of abandoning Bamako by preparing a large troop drawdown. End quote. Okay. Again, chess game. From an unbiased perspective, at least my best attempt at it, it's a chess game. It's as simple as that. The only people that suffer are the people of Mali. I mean, ultimately, that's
literally, it's a disregard for the. We're not saying that this, like, it's not happening. They're purposely just instilling conflict all over. I mean, a lot of this goes back to, I think, I don't know. I think they're trying to instill unrest, make people actually revolt, so then they have a reason to
right.
Totalitarian shutdown. That's what a lot of this is building into.
Yep. And it's unfortunate that we have to speculate like this, but when the media and the government lie so much, what other choice do we have,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. World leaders, this UN General Assembly is interesting. It's seems like really heavily focused on well, everything that we thought it would be, I guess. Really, they're just speaking pretty plainly. This year's gathering kicked off stark appeal from a UN secretary who warned the world is on the edge of an abyss, and it can only be averted through global cooperation. I mean, it's fear mongering into totalitarian new world order control shutdown, just like we talked about. I mean, they're trying to, like, do it on purpose. I strongly hope that North Korea will engage in diplomatic efforts and dialogues between the United States and North Korea on denuclearization.
Okay, I got it. Sorry, I just wanted to say quickly, this is consistent with what Warner von Braun said to some of his aides. I believe one of the female, the woman is still alive. One of the,
she is
yeah,
a
and
secretary.
right. And he said, after the alleged threat of terrorism, there's going to be the threat of third world nations. And this seems to be that. With that being said, you take a look at, China flying the most the most amount of jets, into Taiwanese airspace. You take a look at the tensions, what happened between France, the UK, Australia, the UK and the US with respects to that whole submarine incident. I don't, here's the thing. I know that underneath, or I would like to think underneath, there's a lot of friction and tension. The question becomes, which ruling interests will prevail, not on the surface level, but beneath, because whatever happens beneath is then just going to echo to the surface, maybe not directly or right away, but we take a look here at some of the different points, and Lebanon calls for this, Japan calls for that, all this stuff. Russia, Turkey says this. I mean, here's the thing. They can call for stuff all they want. Politicians and public figures have been calling for things for years, but
I
it doesn't,
know.
it doesn't get anywhere.
It's like the Boris Johnson thing we talked about earlier. It said he called for truckers to get raises and he would send them all warm letters of morale boosting. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
The next thing is that Afghanistan envoy withdraws from the UN General Assembly debate. Isaac Say, hopefully I didn't butcher that, please forgive me, ambassador for the government overthrown by the Taliban, was due to speak on Monday. Well, sure. For me, it's very simple. When your own president, and again, I'm not trying to be insulting here, but when your own president allegedly, he's got 200 million in a bunch of briefcases and he's running onto the helicopter, and the cash is falling out as he's running onto the helicopter, and some of it's left at the airport there. If that is not a metaphor or a good representation of what happened to the rest of Afghanistan, I don't know what else is, you know. So when they pulled their representative, sure, what power does he have? I mean, again, unless we're missing context, I'd love to be corrected, but I don't see it.
I mean, he could have used it as a platform is the only thing I could think. He could
Right.
have used it to call for his version or his, endorsed government to be reinstated, or white hats or something that kind of preaches more to the inner circles have decided, no, we like the Taliban there. That's who we want now, kind of thing. We're
Right.
not even trying to reinstate the old government of Afghanistan. Um, Biden faces harsh criticism for expelling Haitian asylum seekers. There was thousands of people on the Rio Grande, the Del Rio portion of the border.
More than
I
14,000.
Yes, there's a lot of questions about it. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen the border patrol get on horses and literally wrangle people like they did for anything, even when there was 127,000 migrants from Mexico last month. I never saw anything like that. I don't know why now. I don't know what emotion this is supposed to elicit, but they want us to be angry about it.
Right. And if I could throw my 2 cents in there, if we take a look and take a step back at all of this, I mean, we got to be consistent. I did not agree with a lot of
I mean,
things
yeah,
that
no,
Trump
here's the
did.
photos of it, right? Like,
Right.
I've not seen this happen ever.
Right. And not just this with, you know, the alleged whips and things like this, but even putting that aside, okay, let's just say that they didn't use these types of whips and things like that, you know, quote unquote, unique situation we see here as Camden scrolling through the article. If this was Trump, I'm not trying to always play it if this was Trump, because I know that's tit for tat. We can go back and forth all the time with those gotcha statements. But if this was Trump, my gosh, this would have been, you know, racist, this, that, you know, you name it. And so, again, we look, for example, we know for a fact Biden is continuing Trump's border wall. He's evicting personal family properties that are, you know, on the border there. And again, he's not saying what happened to, he said many times as he was running, the wall is going to be stopped right away. No people's personal property will be evicted or, you know, taken by the federal government to continue Trump's border wall. He's continuing it. And then when we look at what they're doing here, I mean, I got to be honest, I'm not saying to let everybody in. I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying ultimately, attempting to play it right down the middle is that, again, get control of the crisis, and
Yeah.
they're shooting down the truthfully the more right-leaning news organization outlets drones. They're literally like they shot down the
I mean,
Fox
I don't
drone.
know. I just think, like, have a belief. Like, if you think the border should be open and everyone should come in, then and all they should from Afghanistan and Mexican migrant workers, then why can't Haitians do it as well? If
Right.
you're, I mean, my all the way fullest extrapolation, borders shouldn't matter at all. But if you are a resident, if you are a citizen, like I should be able to go anywhere I want and no one checks anything at all. Who cares? But if I'm a citizen where I live, I can vote there. Like if I can't just be somewhere and then have like input in that country, you have to like have an investment. Borders really, they're lines on a map. I don't know why we care anyways.
And this is one of the few times, folks, I would dare to argue, and I could be wrong, but I would dare to argue from my personal opinion that when you look at when they say, you know, when Republicans take control of the Oval Office, the borders tend to tighten up and less people come. I think this is as simple as that. They see a Democratic president, they see someone pushing for, Democratic talking points, and I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing. That's not for me to say if it's good or bad. But ultimately, when we look at the patterns over many, many years, look at the numbers. We see when a Democratic administration is in charge, there's more people at the border, right? When they're not, when there's Republicans, there's still border crises. Don't get me wrong, to be fair, even when Republicans are there, but you know, it's a little bit different.
I don't, yeah,
Um,
no, it's a weird socioeconomic thing, but I think I don't know why that matters even. I don't, go ahead. You
right.
got it.
The next thing is that Switzerland says a resounding yes to same-sex marriage. The Swiss-backed proposal, which also allows couples to adopt by a nearly 2/3 majority in a referendum on Sunday, end quote. Now, if we continue on here, it says here, Switzerland has agreed to legalize marriage for same-sex couples by a nearly 2/3 majority in a referendum, making it one of the last countries in Western Europe to do so, end quote. Folks, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not I'm not pro woke or anything close to that. I would like hope to think, but when I see something like this, you know, assuming this was passed legitimately and all that, and the people and the politicians want it, no problem. It doesn't affect my day to day life.
Well,
It
yeah,
doesn't,
no, at
you know.
all. But also, I'm more impressed than anything that Switzerland like took this long to make that legal.
Yeah, to be
more
honest,
than
yeah.
anything.
I
It's one of the
mean,
last countries in the entire world. I don't know.
as many of you know, I've said it before. I have many friends that are gay and some of the nicest people you'd ever meet. So again, I have no problem with this whatsoever, as long as it doesn't affect what my personal life, what I do in the bedroom or anything
But
like that. Then
it's
so be it.
yeah, I mean I don't but is there was it not passed beforehand because there wasn't that many people vying for it? Was there some kind of like pre-60s like hate of gay people in Switzerland? Like what
I
was their reason for lagging? And that's a
Right.
weird thing to dig
That
into. I
that's
don't know.
honestly, it's a genuine question. I think both Camden and myself are asking you guys, the audience, if anyone has the
Yeah.
answer. Now, I
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
right, and I know there's a lot of people that believe, marriage should be between a man and a woman. But with that being said, fair enough. If we're being consistent relative to the way in which countries run their own, affairs, if you will, this is not anywhere. Again, if you live in Switzerland, I'm sure you can have much more of an opinion, but I don't live there, nor does Camden. And it's the same thing. It's like, for example, I tend to have much more strongly worded opinions about Canadian affairs
I
because
mean,
I
like,
I tend
is this the first time they've ever voted on it? Because literally everyone voted yes. So
right,
like, I don't,
right.
why if this is the first time ever, why didn't it barely pass before? Why did it
Mhm.
just now come to a point where they voted and everyone voted yes? I don't know. That's strange.
Right.
China's biggest air show to highlight military prowess. Country's most advanced fighter jet will take part in aerial maneuvers as new electronic warfare jet and advanced drones go on display for the first time. I mean, stolen from whoever or whatever, I'm sure. I mean, they were a great part of the solar winds hack, China was, and they get to get a little jump start, and they're probably making some really, really fucking rad things to fly around with and publicly unveiling. That might be where some of the um gravity manipulation machines first come from, because then the US narrative gets to say, look, they're making these things. Oh wait, now we can figure out how to make these things here. It's all public now. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's an interesting course to go. We'll see what they
And
actually unveil.
in my opinion, this is just one layer of the onion, the metaphorical onion. Again, the only thing that may make this a little bit more advanced is it having to do with electronic warfare. But with that being
Yeah.
said, let's also remember the way in which the CCP, not just in the West, but the CCP, Russia, Iran, they disseminate this to the media
Wait, you're
relative
telling me
to.
that's not an F-35? That's a Chinese jet? Oh,
Right. And I'm
okay,
not,
my
again,
bad.
this is nothing against the Chinese people by
Yeah.
any metric. We're speaking of the CCP. Again, if we take a look at Steve Bannon's, not his most recent appearance on Tim Pool's podcast, but just prior to that, maybe 5, 6 months ago, roughly, he said when he was in the White House as a strategic advisor, think of Mr. Bannon what you will, but this was on transcript. He said that, certain representatives of the Chinese government were overheard saying when these meetings would happen, we're still, 20, 30 years behind the West. We still have to take and sort of steal things from them. I'm not saying in every aspect. The Chinese people, very smart people, but at the same time, like you said, Camden, does that
It's
not look
way
like
easier to get ahead when you start where they're at right now.
right? That's
I
another
mean,
thing
it
too.
literally here it says point blank, Beijing is intent on not just pushing locally made military aircraft and
Right.
aerospace technologies, but also its ability to address almost any military requirement out there.
Now,
So it's
yeah.
like we don't care about using just the Chinese stuff. We got everybody.
Now take a look. It says the Wing Lung 2, an armed drone similar to the American MQ-9 Reaper, has already been sold to customers including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Pakistan as China competes against Western rivals to increase military exports. To me, this is simple, folks. If you can recall a public episode off the top of my head, please forgive me. I didn't. If I had known ahead of time this connection, I would have written it down. But these are the same nations, amongst a few others, that are trying to actively move away from the US dollar. And that is what I see right there. It's pretty surface level to me. It's
I
very
mean,
in your
yeah,
face.
it is. That like you also have to think about these F-35s, these Chinese crafts. They're not just staying with that military. They're selling them to
Right.
everyone. They're everywhere. It's
Right. Yeah, that's exactly.
Go ahead.
The next thing is that according to the BBC, Evergrande, with respects to the large bank in China, investors are in the dark pertaining to an $83 million bond payment. Now, if we scroll down a little more, we'll see here. if we sorry, a little more up. Perfect, thanks.
Oh my bad. Yeah.
Investors were left in the dark after the troubled property giant Evergrande missed the deadline for an 83.5 million or 61 million euro interest payment. The Chinese firm is yet to make an announcement regarding the payment, which was due on Thursday. End quote. A lot of people say this is similar to that of, if I'm not mistaken, the Lehman Brothers. In
Yeah, it's a Lehman Brothers moment.
Right, exactly. And again, this is crazy. I gotta say on a more personal note, I don't. Maybe they are, but I don't know how a lot of these guys at the top. They better have great security around them because I gotta tell you, if they screwed over even one person, whether it was intentional or not, that has any pull within organized crime or the intelligence community, these guys got to be careful because this is not even life or death. This is worse than that. And I'm unfortunate to have to even want to say this, but it's the reality. I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean it's the weird part for me is as we talk about, all the people pulling out of the US dollar countries, this is devaluing the yuan at the same
yeah,
at the same time. Um is the move
intentional maybe. It like
intentional, create panic, get rid of fiat currency? I do know that the way that China banned all cryptos, that is going to make the lower accounts panic sell. That is going to open up massive amounts of rooms for rich buyers to move in to control the space more before everyone and their mother jumps back into crypto when it actually becomes valuable.
right.
It's ooh.
The
Mm.
other thing that the final thing I wanted to add too about that is that when people say in general, Dave Camden, why would they bring themselves down even though others around the world, respective to the investments relative to Evergrande there?
They've already
Why?
moved their money.
Right, exactly. Why would they want to bring themselves down? Well, again, as I've said many times, when you bring yourself down before anybody else, you control the way it happens again. But that could be
Yep.
applied more to a narrative controlling aspect. This is more so, again, there's certain films in Hollywood that sort of depict this, if you will, pertaining to, again, Jack Ryan, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with respects to, again, the collapse, the Russians in that movie were trying to collapse the American dollar. The Russian ruble, if I'm not mistaken, would collapse too, but they explained it. The CIA, head of the CIA was saying, why would the Russians want to devalue their own currency? Because the rest of the world would suffer worse.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
again,
Evergrande fell by 12% in Hong Kong on Friday after jumping 17% the day before. Someone made a dope ass money flip and then
yeah,
got to cash out and then buy back in after 12%. Like you see
right,
what I'm like they make money, make money, make money. Now,
right.
the last thing I want to talk about, because money make money, launder money on these NFTs, it's Professor Scott Fallman made the first emoticon in 1982. That is dope. I'm glad that he's the person that got to make money off this NFT, if we believe in the altruistic concept of NFTs. But everyone's been using a smiley face and sad face since 82, and no one's ever paid him any money. Do I have to, like, does he get royalties on this? How is this digital ownership and real estate like world going to work? Because this is starting to get weird.
Mhm.
Does he, anytime he sees a smiley face in anyone's comments or a YouTube video, does he get to like copyright infringe them? Does he own that now? Like
Yeah.
it's a really weird gray area, and I'm asking opinions and just like not understanding it myself.
The only thing I could say to add to this is that it's no disrespect to Professor Scott Fallman, to be honest with you. More power to him. Again, what's rightfully deserved and owed is what's deserved
Sure.
and owed. But is it, again, I'm asking this genuinely too, does this now mean moving forward, every smiley face emoji, money goes right to him? It's not for us
Or
to say
like, or even an even deeper question. So he sold it at auction for that. That means that someone bought the smiley face. So
right,
who owns the smiley face now? We're not paying him anymore because he sold it.
right.
Who came to him and said, "Hey, you didn't know that you owned it, but you actually own the smiley face, and we want you to put it up for auction, and I'll pay you this for it." Who now owns said smiley face? This is a weird world that we're living in digital like real estate. I don't know. It's weird.
It's quite interesting to see. I mean, the only thing I could say to add one final point is that is it possible there needs to be, regulations because of what you just said, digital real estate, right? People
Yeah.
going from, again, the WW dot era, the sort of early 2000s, people were buying up domain names like crazy,
Yeah.
selling, someone bought up Microsoft.com, Microsoft bought it, if I'm not mistaken, 20 million bucks. There's that person's retirement money and then some,
Yeah.
right? So
I mean, it's
I
an
mean, look,
interesting game to play. I mean, I don't know what I
yeah.
can copyright. I'm gonna try to do the smiley face without the like dash in the middle, just the
Yeah.
eyes, and I'm gonna try to copyright that.
That'd be funny. That'd be funny. But
Go
with
ahead
that
with the
being,
sign off. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, with that being said, everybody wanted to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of a special joint Kraken, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Members, we have an episode coming in the next members only episode, the ones that you all love coming in the next 24 hours. And yeah, let's get banned coming tomorrow for the public, and we'll catch all of you very, very soon. Cheers.